Why in the world did Kentucky Fried Chicken change their recognizable name to KFC? The truth is actually stranger than you think. It's not for the reason you'd expect, and the irony is that if they had gone with their first name choice, none of the name-changing drama would have happened. Probably. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room and that rumor that everyone's heard. They wanted to get rid of the word fried so health-conscious customers wouldn't automatically think of artery-clogging fats whenever they considered eating at the chicken chain.
Apparently they have a new bacon and cheese sandwich, it says here, where they replaced the bread with fried chicken.
Strangely, this is a rumor that started with KFC themselves. According to Snopes, that actually was the official statement released by the chain's public relations department. They claimed that they really did offer some healthy menu items and were making a swing toward being more health-conscious and wanted everyone to know that. Most importantly, they wanted people to know it and make their way back to the chain restaurant by any means necessary. It sounds like a legitimate reason for rebranding, right? But it definitely wasn't the whole truth, and it was sort of a double-edged sword. KFC was, after all, still fried, so trying to hide the word fried behind the letter F wasn't really fooling anyone, was it? It was actually just a story, and the real story was even stranger. In 1990, the year before KFC rebranded, the state of Kentucky did a weird thing. Snopes said the more officially named Commonwealth of Kentucky was looking to get rid of some of their state debt.
Help me, I'm poor.
So someone came up with an idea that was equal parts brilliant, bizarre, and completely alienating. They decided to trademark their name, so anyone using the word Kentucky for any commercial reason would need to pay the state a licensing fee. The then Kentucky Fried Chicken chain spent a year negotiating with the state, basically saying it was pretty insane to make them pay a fee to use a name they had trademarked and had been using for decades. We all know how it turned out. Kentucky Fried Chicken became KFC, and they took the opportunity to introduce the name change along with a complete redesign of their packaging and image. KFC and Kentucky settled their issue in 2006, and it was agreed that KFC could keep using their original name. But fast forward a bit to 2016, and you'll find the issue isn't over. This time, it was the University of Kentucky who hopped on the crazy trademark bandwagon, and they claimed they were the ones who owned the word Kentucky, at least when it came to clothing. With more than 400 businesses using the word in trademarks or trademark applications, it might seem as though they were fighting an uphill battle, but they decided to fight it anyway.
This is Sparta!
They first clashed with a distillery called Kentucky Mist Moonshine, and shockingly, when the distillery took them to court to argue there was no mistaking them with the university and they should be allowed to make merch with their name on it, the Lexington Herald-Leader reported the judge threw out the case in favor of the university. Could that be part of the reason KFC remains KFC? Switching from Kentucky Fried Chicken to KFC wasn't a huge stretch, and KFC has said as much. They've even admitted that it's probably a better name anyway, saying maybe because KFC is just easier to say with your mouth full. They give a few other tongue-in-cheek explanations too, saying that it fits better on signs and there were fewer syllables. They also didn't want people to think of them as just a place to go for chicken, because they have other stuff too. And that seems more of a justification than a reason, doesn't it? But they do bring up a super important point. People were already calling them KFC. They had been KFC to a lot of people for a long time, and it made switching that much easier. If you look back through KFC's history, you'll see that the first restaurant that Colonel Sanders opened wasn't in Kentucky at all. It was in Salt Lake City, Utah. In 1952, Deseret News says Sanders headed to Utah to meet up with a man he'd previously met at the National Restaurant Association. That man, Leon W. Pete Harmon, owned the Harmon Cafe in Salt Lake City, and at the time, Sanders owned his Sanders Cafe. Sanders ended up cooking fried chicken for the Harmons, and Harmon put it on the menu in his cafe. He then hired a sign painter named Don Anderson to paint something in the windows to advertise the new addition, and what got painted there was Anderson's idea, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Sanders passed through again 2 weeks later, saw the sign, and the rest is history. But it was almost very different. At first, Deseret News says they had considered calling it Utah Fried Chicken because, well, they were in Utah. They settled on Kentucky because it cultivated an image of friendly Southern hospitality. There was one more rumor going around regarding the KFC name change that warrants discussion, and that's the one that says they weren't allowed to describe their product as chicken. KFC says that's particularly ridiculous. Snopes says the name change was partnered with the weird rumor that KFC was actually breeding mutant chickens with 4, 6, or 8 legs to supply all the meat needed for their restaurants.
Oh my god, my sister told me about KFC breeding these mutant chickens.
That's disturbing on so many levels, but it turns out that the rumor had more legs than KFC's supposed mutant birds. So eat up! Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more mashed videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.